this episode of our podcast, we're going to be talking about The Problem of Pain by C.S. Lewis. Take it away, Thomas.
Let's go. Our first question was, how does God use pain to communicate with us in our lives? I'll send this off to Russell. What is the way God uses pain to communicate with you, and what do you think was the product of that?
There have been some points, not too many would I necessarily say was divine, sort of, in the biblical or the godly way. Some of the, I have definitely experienced some mental and emotional pains that I did go to God, and there was relief. Like, it was not, it's hard to explain.
There was not, things you know
was
was from God, just that it felt like it was from God?
Yeah. I couldn't tell, but it didn't feel like I did it myself, sort of.
You just felt like it had to be something else above you
Yeah.
that could push you in that direction. I felt the same thing when I was doing 10 years of football. I was always there, Pee-wee, middle school, and high school even. And through the middle school and high school, where I started to really focus in on it more, I got injured. 4 years, 4 knee injuries. I took half a year off just to recover. But in doing so, after that 9th grade year where I got another knee injury, I decided maybe I should go away from football because I keep getting these specific knee injuries, and it's only knee injuries. I then pushed myself into a more academic focused, job focused, and college application focused process. And it took my eyes off of the winning mentality of football and put me into more patient. Because I used to be a little, terrible kid. I used to be super impatient. Now I'm more down to earth. I was terrible. You don't know me. Back in middle school, I threw Levi. Remember Levi?
Yeah, I remember Levi. I was here in middle school.
This was in kindergarten. I kneed him in the head.
Oh.
But that was more accidental. There was I threw a few kids in elementary school.
So do you think that the knee injuries have brought you closer to God, or just closer to an academic?
Well, of course, both, because if I'm more an academic, so to speak, and if we're in a Christian school, it will obviously put me in more position to know God and learn more from God instead of look forward to practice or the game.
Yes,
so I had more chance to learn from God. I know. I learned chance to learn more from God, and in turn, I accepted Him a lot better I accepted Him compared to earlier years where I didn't truly accept Him, where I believed I did.
Are you glad that happened?
Am I glad? Yeah, man. Those knee injuries are kind of annoying after a while. Every year, it's like, am I gonna get another knee injury, man? I was like, man, I'm done with this. I gotta just do something else. Focus farther into the future.
Maybe you won't hurt your knee when you're trying to read.
Yeah. It's a lot better than getting hit by a 200-pound guy. Those hurt, man. What about you, Hunter, though? What about you?
Honestly, I don't think that I've had any push from God or any divine, I guess, pulling towards God more from physical pain, but mental pain, there's been ways where mentally I wasn't okay, and I think that did bring me closer to God because it brought me to the mindset. It was where I was saying, okay, God, I don't know what else to do. I need you to help me. So it brought me closer to God. And I believe that nowadays He uses more emotional pain to guide people than physical pain, and makes people feel. I know this kind of seems the way I'm wording it, it makes it sound manipulative. If you don't follow me, I'm gonna hurt you. But that's not what I mean. But I feel if your mind gets into a dark place, it does kind of bring you closer to God in some aspects. Yes, because I feel like also with the pain being different, miracles are different too nowadays. I feel like all of that has changed with time because there used to be like healing the blind or walking on water, physical, like more, and casting out demons that are more like grand than what you see in culture today. You don't really see as many like obvious miracles, even though they're there. You just can't really.
Because everything
See it.
seems like a miracle nowadays. Because now, like, let's use that eye specific, where you fix the
Yeah.
eyes of the blind. Now you can do LASIK eye surgery,
Yeah.
get glasses. That wasn't a thing before.
I don't think glasses help blind people, though.
Or like another thing is healing the paralyzed man and telling him to get up and walk. That's unmatched even today.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's just not as. He doesn't use his power as much as he used to.
Do you think that's true, or do you think he does it in a, maybe, let's say, a different way? Because now you could do different surgeries that fix lame people, but it's a surgery. Like compared to God, who can just say like that. Of course, it's different,
Now-
but it's the same process.
Now you
process,
put
so to
me
speak.
in like a point of view as like maybe his miracles now, or he's putting his power as in
The people.
using his wisdom and passing it down to people. They come up with these great medical discoveries, and it's more of like passing wisdom down than passing like physical like less miracles but more wisdom.
More inventions than physical actions, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah. And on the topic of pain, we have a quote by C.S. Lewis that we should talk about, is the pain of human suffering versus the pain of God. Now, he says that 4/5 of human suffering is by God, implying 4/5 of human suffering is by humans, and 1/5 is by God. Do you think that pain is different is a better pain than human pain? So is God's pain better than human pain? So to speak, righteous.
Well, what is God's pain?
We'll go into the second part of that question to answer that. God's discipline, like a father's discipline, since they're both human versus God.
I don't know that they're entirely separate, because I think a lot of times, like, you'll have pain or something that's created by humans, but then it's also used by God to, like, help somebody, or to use by God to make somebody better, or to accomplish a certain thing. Like, I don't know that any pain, like, starts with God. Like, I don't know that God, like, well, I mean, okay, I guess, like, you could, maybe, like, natural disasters and stuff, you could make the argument that that's God, but, like, I I agree with the quote, like, but I think probably a lot of the time it's something that a person does, that God uses. Like, you get yourself in a bad situation, and then God uses it to accomplish something, or somebody else does something to you that's bad, and then God uses it to accomplish something. I don't know, there's a lot of times that God is literally, like, afflicting people. I mean, it probably does happen, but I don't think that's common at all. Like, even in the Bible, Job was being afflicted by Satan, not God. So
Fair point. That's a fair point. On our second question, we'll start out by a quote by C.S. Lewis. He says his happinesses are like broken toys, which directly is parallel with our question. Russell, what do you think that quote means? Our happinesses are like broken toys.
I feel like, to me, I don't know. I would have to take more of a personal stance,
That's fine.
but I feel like it more means we are constantly looking for someone to repair our happiness.
I got one question. If it's blinking, is it muted, or is it fully not blinking, it's muted? I forgot which one it is. It's not blinking at all.
It can hear us.
He's going to cut it out.
It can hear us.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you. We'll actually leave that one in.
It can hear us.
Continue, please. I was just wondering.
re-ask the question.
Oh, what is the quote by C.S. Lewis? Our happinesses are like broken toys. Mean, what do you think it means? Either to you or just general.
To me, I feel like the quote refers more to something like, not actually refers to, but to me it means something more of looking for someone to fix you in a sense, kind of. I would sort of relate myself to being broken, of course, but I feel like I have experienced a point where I was not truly happy, but just about there, you know? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm constantly trying to look for something to get me back to that point, whether that be through a person or
An object,
yeah,
and just or an idea, even you could say.
yeah.
Now,
A place.
a place. Like the I just like that's funny. The on my level, I would say how I interpret it is that when he says his happinesses are like broken toys, is that they can't ever be permanent. Toys will break. Your happinesses will break as well. And the happinesses come from such worldly desires, like objects, people, places, even ideas. So we need to search for something, maybe even one of those that is somehow permanent, like the idea of God or God Himself or heaven. Those are what we just said, but they're permanent. So the idea is that He's trying to have dependence on God. That's how I interpret it, at least. I think it's interpreted at least. And that's how we should show. That's how we should act too. Is that we should strive for something permanent compared to what we do now, which is so temporary and in worldly desires.
The way that I interpret it is how we've already talked about how God's discipline being like a father's discipline.
Mhm.
It's also like the same way that we act when our happiness goes away and we're in a bad time to God is like the same way a little kid is when their toys break and they run to their dad. And it's like, oh, it's broken, or oh, I'm sad again, please help me. Or the other kids, some of them just, when their toys get broken, they get mad and angry, just like how people, when they go through a hard time, some of them get mad and angry at God.
I see what you mean, and I agree with that statement because I think all of us, or at least me, but I think pretty much all people who have the surrounding of people who are Christians, they have at least a somewhat idea of God, and they think that at least the idea of God is real, but they don't follow it. Like how I was when I didn't truly believe. It was whenever something bad happened to me, I had a slight
Like deviation.
deviation and inferred that it was mainly that had God at least had a part in it.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a lot of people who just are Christians. They have a problem accepting that pain is it's a building block. That's what it is. It's either a building block to get stronger, like in your faith, or a building block to push in a different way, which also helps you stronger in your faith, which is what God wants.
I mean, I agree with the quote because, like, I think on Earth you can have like states of relative happiness. I mean, some people on Earth are happier than others. Like, people with no job and no friends are not happy usually. But I mean, I think like what he's saying is, on Earth you can't really ever attain like complete happiness that lasts forever, like you can with God in heaven. And even on Earth, people who are, I think God gives people like a sense of fulfillment and satisfaction and stuff that is hard. You can't really get on Earth with worldly things.
I would like to go back to your point on the father's discipline. What do you correlate that?
So, it's like the same way how earthly fathers aren't really a good example because all humans fall short, and there's like fathers who aren't there, abusive, or just don't really care. or don't love their kids. But I believe that their fathers should, or that these fathers should kind of model themselves off of God and do things through love. Like, you can be disciplinary, but you need to do everything with love. And don't be like,
Too strict on your kid. Like,
I don't think about, more like being, try to be like how God is love. Like, just try to model yourself through that, and just don't, I don't really,
like have a level of understanding with your kids, sort of.
I guess, yes, and just be there and be disciplinary, but don't be like wrathful or mean.
Yeah, like with their good, like with good intention in mind,
Yes.
like their best interest. Sort of.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, you brought the word wrathful into it, and I want to play devil's advocate real quick. Another an attribute of God, I believe, is that He is wrathful. I believe that's what.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a difference in that type of wrathful versus a father's wrathful, and is that where you're going off?
Well, I think it's like, I think he's mostly wrathful towards unbelievers and stuff. So I think it's like the way an earthly father would get mad if somebody tried to hurt his children. Like, I think it's kind of the same.
Like, a father shouldn't be beating his wife or his children just because he doesn't get his way, but to be on your same side how is that worse than flooding the whole earth?
That's what I'm asking.
Mm.
That's what I'm asking.
I don't.
There's only a difference because one's God and one's not.
Let's get
That's
into
when
the
it gets into the
nitty-gritty.
whole. That's when it gets into the whole divine thing.
Let's get into the nitty gritty.
It's just kind of good because it is.
Unless you just want to put it out as
I mean, I guess the devil's advocate of that would be like, the earth was like very evil.
Well, would that be devil's advocate, or would that be, just God's
Well,
advocate?
now y'all are saying like, oh, that's funny.
Oh wow.
Cut.
Yeah.
No,
So, wait. I just need to say this.
It's because I just wanted to play devil's advocate.
Are we gonna... I feel like this podcast is gonna be turned the wrong way.
No,
Like,
that's
against.
why I said just to be devil's advocate. And if you want to cut it out, you can cut it out. I just wanted to be devil's
But
advocate.
now it's at me thinking, like, how...
I mean, we can take.
This
Jesus
is-
say
this
we
is
have to land on his side. I mean,
This is a fair question.
Yeah.
It's an opinion.
Yeah.
You do what you want. But now, it's not like we're going to be 100% right. You can be like, hey, there is a difference between God and man,
Yeah.
and that God knows everything. If let's say if he did, and there's a book, the Bible has prophecies. If this didn't happen, then nowhere near as many people would go to heaven, or the people that, no, I won't say that should be, but nowhere near as many people will go to heaven. Don't be as many believers. And if God believes that if the flooding is the only thing necessary throughout the entire world, and there's only 20 people with all of his family that are allowed, and even even Noah said, let me find like 10 people in the whole city of Sodom and Gomorrah that are good, and he couldn't find like any besides his own family, and that was the thing God gave him. He gave him a deal, and it still didn't work out. Then you'd be like, okay, that's fair, because if we think of ourselves and put ourselves in a thing that believes we need to be changed, and we have, let's say, evidence of if this is not right or this is not right, we change it. That's the same thing with God, except on an exponentially larger scale. That's how I would do it.
Yeah.
And
We're keeping that in.
Yeah. See, we just brought it back. That's so easy. This is great. Anyway, so I wrote some evidence on the pain, but like God used pain to communicate with us under that category. It was a country's pain, and it related to let's say wars. Obviously, how C.S. Lewis says all guns, slavery, bombs, wars was created by humans. That relates to the evidence I put down. Does God believe that wars need to be waged, or slavery needed to happen, or guns need to be invented for the wrong uses, people die, and blah blah blah, and that shapes the country to a better place. Like say now it's a Christian, so to speak, country, even though it's a First Amendment, anyone can do it. But it was mainly Christian to begin with, and it's still heavily Christian now. If after World War I and World War II, it wouldn't. If that didn't happen, it might have changed, and that goes with every other country that was part of it, or just had any influence with it. It changed it. It changed population density, or just population
Yeah.
in the where population is white. I forgot the word for it. And how it brought it closer to God. I just explained that. I don't know. I thought I was gonna ask a question, but I just explained my whole evidence to that thing.
Yeah.
So can you ask the question, please?
Are we supposed to answer it or supposed to ask?
No, I was gonna try to ask a question to that, but I was just
Like,
I explained it myself.
does God use like influence wars?
Yeah,
And
let's
they-
say that. Does God
kind
use
of.
slavery?
Isn't there like wars in the Bible, and like when they marched around Jericho, that was kind of like a.
Was that a war? Or
But
was that
it
just
was-
like a battle? Because like let's say he told his on one of the things he told his angel to kill like 100, 200,000 enemy soldiers, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And he did it in night. That wasn't a war. That was a battle.
Well, I mean, there's a time
That
when
was a
like
slaughter.
there's a time he
Still
told
counts as a
he told the
battle.
Israelites.
Actually, no. That's on notes of genocide.
There was a time he told the Israelites.
That's
to
a mass
kill
extinction,
All the Canaanites,
Actually,
too.
no. If it's just the soldiers, it wouldn't be genocide. If it becomes humans, and no, if it becomes civilians, then it becomes genocide. Anyway, please continue.
There was the time, like, I don't know what book it's in, when he told the Israelites to kill all the Canaanites, like all of them. Like he specifically said, like kill them all. So like that's a war. That's definitely a war. I mean that's kind of like
That's not a battle.
it's kind of tough. I don't know why.
That's worse than a
Was
war.
there any Canaanites left after that?
I don't
That's
know.
a good question.
I didn't read it. I mean I have read it, but it's
I didn't read it.
I know it's there. You know that.
I know it's there.
I.
Can you walk that out for us? Like what page?
I don't know what page of the Bible. I want to say it's in.
Page?
It's got to be. It's in the.
You have to
It's
tell
in the
us.
Old Testament somewhere. It's
Somewhere.
Kings or Chronicles or Samuel or
So y'all do your fact checking after this.
yeah. Do your fact checking.
Yeah, we are not.
I'm sure it's there.
We are just four idiot students having a great time on this comfortable chair couches. That's what it is.
Children, literal children.
And we're literal children. We're childish, but we're smart. Quote.
We.
No,
No.
we're smart. Anyway,
Wouldn't you say that going to war kind of provides value to a life that we wouldn't otherwise have? Because what do we have to gain if we have nothing to lose?
what?
What is there to gain? What is there to gain if you have nothing to lose?
Kind
I
of like
see
you
what mean. I see
can't
what
have
you mean.
happiness without
I know what you mean.
sadness.
I see what you mean. So, let's say it's like, okay, let's put that into general terms of everyday life. If you have happiness, you can lose it. You can not be happy. If you have something, there has to be an opposite of something. And with that, there's a tension in your life. I'm gonna use just words. There's a tension in your life that makes you try to keep what you prefer. Say that. And if you didn't, and you strive to keep it that way, you strive. That's the big point. You strive to do it. If you didn't have that strive or that ability to strive for something you care about, there is nothing to care about. That's how I believe it. If I care about someone and I don't want to try to care for them, do I actually care for them? That's how I look at it. That's like
What?
Okay. If you care about somebody,
Mm-hmm.
like your mama, your girlfriend, and maybe if you get a dog, let's say that. Well, you left. Anyway, you got one of those,
Mm-hmm.
and you try to care for them, like just how you should, as your duty, and as your what you like.
Yeah.
You like your daughter, you like your mama, you like your wife, and you want to keep it that way. Obviously, you're not going to do stupid stuff.
Right.
You're not going to be rude to your mama, wife, or daughter. You're not going to hit them, of course.
Oh, I thought you were saying like actually like taking care of them.
Yeah, but also taking care of them as a duty, but also just because you like them.
You you're talking about like providing for them, which that makes sense. Providing for them and
that also works.
being
what are you
being
getting
a
at?
responsible husband, dad, father.
Yeah.
You know.
If you didn't strive for that specific thing, do you really care for them? Do you really love
I feel
something
like you
that
could.
you don't strive
Yeah,
for?
I agree.
I feel like if you know that you are not good for them, like say for instance the dad is an alcoholic, right? But he knows that he doesn't want to get better, but he wants them to be okay.
Well,
He could say, "Leave me, go. It's for y'all because I care about you. You're better without me." kind of
well,
thing.
the way you say that, and the way I would think, be like, obviously that technically works, but wouldn't it be better all around if just the father? I know it's gonna be like hard. Of course, it's gonna be hard to not be an alcoholic, to not do wrong things, since we're humans. But if we're basing it off of just on paper, the best way to just be would just to stop drinking and to be tried and just strive for what you believe to be a happy family. How which is the non-alcoholic father. That's on paper. That's how it should be. Well, obviously it's harder, so it comes with weight to say that.
Yeah, I feel like that you do eventually get to a point. I feel like I feel like I feel like you can get wrapped up in that sort of thing, right? Like I've seen it happen. That's how my buddy's dad was. He was a major alcoholic, and he pushed his kids away for like the
For
best
their
of them.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. In our world, it probably works more. It works, of course it does. Anything can work in that world. But I feel like it would be harmful if you didn't have a father in your life. Let's be serious. If we didn't have fathers, we would turn out differently. Probably for the worse. Maybe for better. But if we have two parents, and we should have two parents. It works better to give the job or the responsibility here.
I feel like it depends on how you're raised, or more of where you're raised. I
Yeah,
feel
it
like that.
can-
I
it
feel
can
like that
depend,
kind of
of course.
situation can produce more of either a more responsible person or one that is not so responsible.
Of course, it can change. But I think personally, the best way to have is to have two parents who both have obviously their own problems, but on paper, this is all on paper how we should think. We have two parents who don't have any problems and they teach us the right way. And that's how I believe. Of course, you can have a single mother, a single dad to be better at raising you than having both of them.
Yeah.
But in that case, it would just be the one person is the problem or problematic, and then we go back to the you should leave me and stuff. But since it's all on paper, it's just if the best way to do it is to have both of them fixed, both of them be fixed. But that's how I forgot the original question.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I think the question was,
Our parents are broken. They aren't perfect. They sacrifice parts of themselves for us. Of course.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think the question was like if your parents,
It was the father's discipline question.
yeah, or don't really care, or do they really care, or something like that.
Oh, the original question was this. It was, it was like you said, if you have something and you're not afraid to lose it, do you really have something? That's what you kind of said. It was around that topic.
Yes, of course you have it.
No, or do you?
If you have nothing to lose, what do you have to gain?
That's what it was. Thank you. And I was like, well, yeah. If you don't strive for something, and then I said, if you don't strive for something, then do you really care for it? That's like if you're in football and you don't strive to be better, do you really care to be better? And then I brought in just the husband aspect because that's just the first thing I thought of. Which it fits. If you don't strive for something, I don't think you really care for it. That was my whole opinion on it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I feel like you could definitely care for something, just not really strive to it too much.
Okay, we're
Like
going back
lazy
into the
people.
same thing we just said.
I don't know.
Either way, well, what does that know?
I don't
Because we're gonna go.
cut.
We're gonna cut it into a circle because that's actually the thing you said the first time. It was
It's not.
Anyway, thank you for listening to our Trust and Triumph podcast. Actually, that didn't sound.
Thank you for
listening to the Trust and Triumph podcast with Thomas, Jackson, Russell, and Hunter.
Have a great day.
See you tomorrow. See you later.
Alligator.
Alligator. Bring me that. That's the blue. That's the blue form. Anyway.